Hi, everyone. I'm Mark Plaster, and this is EP Talk, the place where EPs, emergency physicians, come to talk about things that are important to us. And I'm really pleased today to have Major Kevin Maskell for the U.S. Army with me today. But before Kevin, I'm going to call you Kevin rather than Major. Before we talk too much about Kevin's experience and about the Army Medical Corps, I'm going to give a disclaimer. As many of you who have been following my writing for years know, back in 2001, I had the opportunity to join the U.S. Navy Medical Corps Reserve and was joined to Marine Corps units and spent 2 combat tours in Iraq with the 1st Marine Division and then the 2nd Marine Division running a shock trauma platoon. So I have a very sweet spot in my heart for soldiers, Marines, airmen, Navy, because it was one of the formative experiences of my entire life. And saying that, I realized that the vast majority, though, Kevin, of military physicians probably will never, ever be in a combat situation, will they?
Yeah, that's very true. Personally, I've deployed once, and it was to which was considered at the time a not a combat zone. So
yeah. I mean, because I think that the reason why I even say that is because I think that while there's certainly a great deal of pride of having done that, the truth is that medical corps, be it Army, Navy, Marine Corps, whatever, Air Force, we stand to serve people in a lot of different ways, both in country, overseas, in relief efforts, all kinds of things. I'd like to talk to you a little bit about that and about your career so far. So tell me a little bit about where you come from. Let's give me a thumbnail sketch of Kevin Maskell.
yeah, sure. So I grew up in the DC area. Went to school there. Went to school at University of Virginia. Then went to Chicago for medical school. Moved out to started my Army career at that point. Went to emergency medicine residency at Madigan Army Medical Center, which is on the West Coast. It's up kind of near Seattle, Tacoma area.
Yeah, I actually applied to that back when it was first starting to get started back in 1979. And
Fantastic place.
yeah, and I actually went through the military match and actually matched a Tripler Army hospital.
Great.
And in Hawaii, and then ended up not taking it. Ended up going to Akron, Ohio instead. But I've always wanted to go to Madigan and see what Madigan was like.
It's an interesting place. It's there's lots of showmanship in the Army. There's lots of building yourself up over everybody else. So where I am now, I'm at Brooke Army Medical Center down here in San Antonio. We're the only level 1 trauma center in the DoD. But then because we're joint with Air Force here as well, that lets Madigan then say, even though they're a level 2 center, that they're the biggest only Army hospital. So yeah, they're the only, out of all of these hospitals that only have Army people there, they're the biggest one. So yeah, Madigan was great training, great balance between the military side and then getting out to see civilian work as well. Then from there, I actually did a toxicology fellowship. So there's none of those within the military. Switched out to do civilian time for a couple of years. Went back east to Virginia to do that, then came right back to Madigan as faculty to teach for a few years. Was a brigade surgeon for 2 years at one of the combat units on post there, one of the Stryker brigades. And then last couple of years I've been down here at Fort Sam, mostly teaching, but also getting some time in the ER down here as well.
That's great. That's fantastic. You know, one of the things I want you to share with people, though, see, my time was as a reservist and then in a combat zone. But I really never got a chance to see all the things that the military physicians do that are not related to that. Sure. Give me a little bit of the flip side of your medical practice at Fort Sam and other Army bases.
Yeah, so it's a very interesting thing. When you're in the hospital, it's essentially like any other hospital, right?
Right.
Only your primary patient population is healthy 18 to 35 or so year olds who work out 5 days a week, right? There's a lot less of the natural body armor, if you will, than what you see on the civilian side. Although we also have their dependents, right? We have their spouses, we have their kids. In my case, my mom's dependent on me, so you still get some of that acuity.
Right.
Down here at BAMC, like I said, we're a level 1 center. We're part of the trauma system for the area. So we get all the stuff you'd expect from a major city trauma center.
Yeah. And
On the other hand,
let me get in. And when you say BAMSA, make sure people know what.
Sure. My apologies. Brooke Army Medical Center. So
Okay.
we are the Army hospital that's down here in San Antonio, Texas. So like I said, only level 1 center in the DoD, the Department of Defense. So
You have a burn center there. You have a burn center.
We have a burn center. We have a burn center. We have, I joke, we have an everything center. We're the level 1 everything center. So
yeah, you're famous.
Yeah, we have if you need it within the DoD, you're either coming here or to Walter Reed near DC. So
Yeah.
We have a huge capability here. Can't say enough about the amount of stuff we have here. Again, had my own mom get a TAVR done here just last year. So very much cutting edge type facility. Also on site is the Army Institute for Surgical Research, which is a whole separate command, but provides additional support like the burn center to BAMC. So
yeah, I have heard of many major burns, who have been transported to BAMC from various places all over the country because of the expertise that you guys have there at Brooke Army Hospital.
Yeah, the burn folks are fantastic.
And I took a course at BAMC on tropical medicine. I was anticipating going to South America, and it's the only place I've ever had a lecture where the lecturer let a cobra go on the floor and walked around with a little hook to keep it from. He told everybody in the front row, just don't push your feet out to the edge of the lecture area. So it was kind of fun watching that snake roll around and have him, guide it to different places and talk about cobra venom.
Sure. Yeah, that course is still offered. It's not down here anymore, but the tropical medicine course is very much still a thing, and they do all sorts of crazy stuff like that.
Well, tell me what your life is like when you're not. When you took off the uniform, and I mean, people think of the reason why I'm calling you Kevin rather than Major, because I want them to see you as a person who's just like everybody else. If you haven't been in the military, and I would say the vast majority of Americans have no connection whatsoever to the military, they don't know what that's like. They don't know what your life is like.
I like to think I'm pretty normal. I'm married, 4 kids. My mom lives with us too, helps out with the kids. I teach Sunday school at the church. I like to play video games and computer games. I'm a bit of a cheapskate, so I buy old ones. I don't buy the latest one that came out. Mow the lawn. I like to distance run. I like to weight lift from time to time. So, just normal stuff. We went to Disney World this last summer.
Yep.
Just a typical American lifestyle, other than, I've happened to wear a little bit funny of a suit when I go to work in the morning.
I will say that from the 15 years that I had with the Navy Marine Corps, that there is a sense of pride in military service that cannot be understood unless you really have been a part of it. There are opportunities all over the world. I did some of my reserve annual training over in Italy a couple different times. I did international exercises in Kenya and Ukraine. And, so these are things that the average dog doesn't get a chance to do. And so, yes, it's just like being a civilian, but not. You have a lot more opportunities.
Yeah, I distinctly remember being recruited back in college right before medical school, and hearing some docs saying that it's just like being in a civilian doctor, except twice a year somebody tells you to eat less and work out more often. And when I'm in the hospital, that's kind of my experience as well. Is April and October, okay, I gotta recheck my height and step on the scale and not like the number, but hey, I passed, it's okay. So yeah, like you said, with the overseas stuff, I had the opportunity a couple of years ago to do a trip to Papua New Guinea.
Wow.
Where we were. So it's called the Defense POW Accountability Agency. It's a group that goes and tries to bring back remains of U.S. service members. So a lot of people don't necessarily remember, but Papua New Guinea was an early part of the island hopping campaign.
Right.
Things weren't necessarily going great when we were starting out on Papua New Guinea. So there were a lot of soldiers that were left behind, in a very quick combat grave, and we're going to try to find them and be able to bring their remains back. So it was myself and a medic that were supporting a team of 20 or 30 people that we were bouncing around Papua New Guinea in various areas looking for any sort of a sign. It was an investigation team. So we were talking to the village elders. Hey, where did your grandfather say that the pilot landed? Oh, well, the wreckage is over here. Got some fantastic photos of old bombers that have been being reclaimed by the jungle. And then, hey, the wreckage is over here. My grandpa said that the pilot was strangling up in that tree. And so then we go look around and try to find any signs of a grave or any signs of anything that we could bring back for the families. So that was a very different experience medically because we're ER docs. We're used to having the tunnel of truth, that just down the hallway that we can scan whoever we want. I was stuck with whatever I could carry on my back. So it was and a Pelican case full of meds as my pharmacy, and whatever I could put in there. So 6 weeks, it was a little bit of an adventure, but we got there.
Wow. Well, I thank you, because my father actually was in Papua New Guinea in 1943. So he came back, thankfully. You weren't looking for him, but it's just that kind of experience. Obviously my experiences in Iraq with the Marine Corps were very unique, but I'll be honest with you, I enjoyed the non-combat as much or more. We got to go to Italy and work in the hospital there in Naples, and then took 2 weeks and toured around Europe while I was over there and I, like I say, went to Ukraine and went to Republic of Georgia. I mean, it's an interesting lifestyle for sure. We want to talk a little bit. I've only got you here for another 15 minutes or so, but I want to talk a little bit about some of the non-combat things. You mentioned the effort in New Guinea. Some of the other things that emergency physicians might find themselves doing in the military, in the Army specifically.
Yeah, so it all winds up being a question of what job you're doing, right? So there are some of my favorite mentors and friends they've spent their entire life in the hospital, and that gives you a lot of opportunities to get grabbed for things like that Papua New Guinea trip. My last job, I was a brigade surgeon. So I was the head doc for a combat unit of 4,500. We never went anywhere, but we were, having to handle all those soldiers' problems. And then we got used to go do some of those trips like you were talking about in the Ukraine and all. We went to India. So it was a unit of us just went and did a joint exercise with the Indian Army, and an opportunity to really interface with our counterparts in the Indian Army, to see what they were, see what the Indian medical system is like. Really had a lot to learn from them. They may not have all this technology that we have, but they have a lot of physical exam skills that I think we could stand to learn from. But opportunity to do that. The opportunity is my current job. I teach, right? I'm 1 day a week in the ER to keep my skills up, but then the rest of my time I'm teaching medics, nurses, doctors, anywhere from chemical weapon type topics or chemical threat type topics, right? Hazmat topics, to trauma training, to whatever else the Army thinks I need to be teaching. That's our tactical medical readiness division. We're here for preparing people for that forward mission. So we're not the ones going out. I mean, we have experience, but we're not the ones actually going to do it, but we are helping prepare others. Then there's recent memory here, the COVID missions. I wasn't part of any of those, but we put multiple field hospitals out to support COVID response in several cities around the country as the local civilian facilities were getting overwhelmed. That was both active duty and reserves. All the different services contributed. It's an opportunity to take that step beyond helping your local community and into the broader U.S. community.
Yeah, I actually had an opportunity serving in a field hospital here in Baltimore in the COVID response, and I'd like to actually talk a little bit about, as I recall, they called them operations other than war. It was a funny term, but I was part of the group that went down to Haiti after the Haitian earthquakes occurred, and we had thousands of dead down there. Worked with, I was on the ground working with people who were working off of, trying to remember which ship it was. I guess it'd be the Comfort,
Probably.
the Comfort on the East Coast. Yeah. And I know that the Army has other missions like that. The Army has sent people into tsunamis and after the earthquakes and things like that. Can you speak to that much?
Through friends, that's one I've never had the opportunity to go do, but it's a common thing if it comes up, especially working in the hospitals. There's a pool of doctors available there, and they will assemble either an ad hoc team, or when you're working in the hospital, you're usually also kind of partially assigned to a field unit that can go and do things like that. And so if that unit gets activated, hey, we're going to Haiti, we're going to wherever, we're going to Turkey or Syria for the earthquake response or whatever other response. Could easily, I haven't heard of anybody going, but there could easily be people heading to Ohio, right? We have teams designed to handle problems like what's going on there. You're ready to go, and it's a truly unique opportunity you can't find anywhere else.
Right. Yeah, I think that if people really enjoy variety, the military is going to be a place where you're going to see some variety and opportunities to do things that you really had never thought about before.
And we move a lot. We move a lot. Although I will say I've been in 12 years, and this is my first time actually moving outside of what you'd expect.
Yeah.
But by moving a lot, you get that variety. You get job at the hospital, job with a unit, job teaching. You get to see such a broad base without necessarily settling in at one particular location and one particular job.
Yeah, that's absolutely. I mean, obviously, as a reservist, I didn't move around, and now the folks that got me in contact with you are the recruiting arm, and I know that they're hoping that we can interest people in both the active duty as well as reserve arm. Tell me a little bit about that process. Let's just say some young emergency physician was interested in knowing more. How does he do that? I mean, it can be difficult. I mean, who do you call?
Best advice is to reach out and find an Army Medical Department or AMED recruiter. That's 2 Ds on AMED. I believe it's goarmy.com/AMED will get you to the listing of them. But they're the ones, they can tell you all the details about what the current programs are. From the time you talk to them until you're moving through the process is going to vary, of course, but we're always in need. We're always short-staffed. We could always use another pair of hands. And it's the process goes fairly straightforward. You have to fill out the paperwork proving you are who you say you are. You got to get processed through a physical exam to make sure you're medically ready and healthy enough and all. And then you're looking at commissioning and heading out to basic officer leadership course to be ready as an officer of the U.S. Army. It's as streamlined as it possibly can be. They try to make it a painless process. I can tell you one of my side jobs that I do right now for the Army is I review medical records for the MEPS, the military entrance processing stations, and you can get a little bit hung up there. We now have a little bit better access to people's civilian records, so things that may have slid past in prior years we're finding now, but it's pretty straightforward. Personally, for me, I joined as a medical student, so I came in through the HPSP program on scholarship, and that's again for that 4 years. I was just like any other student. It's just that I was getting my tuition paid for, and I was getting a little bit of a living expenses stipend, pretty comfortable one actually at the time.
Yeah, I know that my son-in-law, who I always kid him as being a surfer kid. He grew up surfing, and so the last thing on his mind was joining the military. And when he went through medical school, and he found out that, my gosh, the military will pay a good portion of that massive medical school bill, and and then the opportunities that he had on top of that.
They pay every penny. If it's tuition, books, fees, everything is covered. Health insurance is covered. And then I was looking at something before we got on the phone here that it's stipend is something like $2,500 or more than $2,500 a month right now. So that's just for free and clear for you for living expenses. So It's pretty generous, and that's all in exchange for year. 1 year of scholarship is 1 year of service you owe after your residency. So it's a pretty reasonable deal. I liked it. Obviously, I'm still around. So
Well, I stayed in as long. I mean, people are kind of amazed that I actually came in at age 50.
oh wow.
Yeah, and that was unusual. And the interesting part was that I came in actually before I actually signed up before 9/11, and then 9/11 occurred, and then and my son was graduating from the Naval Academy the following year, and so he was sworn in, and he turned around a month later and actually swore me in as an officer over him, which was kind of fun. That was a lot of fun. And then he and I ended up going overseas simultaneously. And we didn't go together. He was with the Navy and I was with the Marine Corps, but we were both deployed simultaneously, which again was something that I'm very, very proud of for sure. And to have been a part of military service, I can't tell people enough what it's like to treat our military personnel. They respect you. They do what you tell them to do. They're healthy, like you say, to start with. They respect you. I can't say enough about that.
Oh, it's very different because I do occasionally kind of moonlight on the side sometimes in civilian hospitals, and that difference in the level of respect and the just generally pleasant, and heaven forbid they actually occasionally say thank you when you're done with your visit. I mean, it's and there's no worrying about insurance or can I get them this med? Can I get them that study? It's handled. You're in an Army hospital. The CT scanner is paid for. They may have to wait a minute to get back there, but they have to wait a minute anywhere. So once they get through, the radiologist reads it and it all comes through. And no question, it's handled.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly right, and that's true the world over. If you're in Naples or Rota, I'm familiar with the Navy bases, but if you're in Rota, Spain, or you're in Naples, Italy, or you're in Honolulu, or you're any of those places, it's going to be exactly the same. So the opportunity is there to have a tremendous experience, and I really encourage people to really think about it. You don't have much experience with the reserve part of this, do you? Do you have reserve?
Not really. I have family history. My grandfather was in the National Guard for a long time, and I by teaching courses, I wind up talking to the reservists pretty frequently, but I haven't been there myself as yet. Kind of thinking about it maybe as towards the end of career, but haven't done it myself yet. No.
So tell me, tell our viewers just a little bit about what military life, the military side. We've said, civilian side is, it's like anything else. It's a hospital, it's medicine. You take care of patients, and the fact that you wear a uniform is about the only thing that really would make it look different. But tell me, you mentioned something about twice a year, you have to do a readiness test. I can see you're fit. It doesn't matter too much to you. I know I struggled to be under, the height weight.
Oh, the height weight in the Army is super generous until you're actually standing there doing it and said, "Whew, okay, that scale isn't what I was hoping it would say this time." But yeah, it's really and anybody who's interested can look up the tables online and see if they would make it. The height and weight is height and weight. It's simple, straightforward. People argue about the efficacy of it, but if I'm 6'1", I'm allowed 205 pounds. Okay, that's simple what it is. Then twice a year, similar time frame, you do a physical fitness test. So old school, when I first joined, it was push-ups, sit-ups, and run 2 miles. Now it's this more complex beast called the Army Combat Fitness Test, where it's, you got to do a deadlift, and they set the deadlift minimum to pass as what you would need to lift a casualty on a litter, 140 pounds, for 2 people, right? Then you have to go do a shuttle run, but it's modified so you're carrying extra weight, and it winds up being a good workout and actually kind of fun. At one point you're throwing a 10-pound medicine ball over your head and behind you and see how far you can throw it. But it's a good workout. It's a good check and make sure that you're physically fit so you can do your duty. It's actually one of the things that keeps me in the Army, is I know that's what keeps me honest about my own health, right? I was a fat video game kid growing up. I was way out of shape when I joined up, and it's made me made me be a healthier person in my life. But otherwise, military side of things, the biggest difference is that we get leadership positions at a far earlier point. We just by need, by number of people that aren't around. I had a couple of residency classmates where I was heading off to fellowship. Their first assignment was chief of a department. Now, it was a small department, and they were chief over people that were 20 years their senior, because they were contractors and government civilians and all that all knew what they were doing, but still they were the one of two actual green suit or actual Army people in that hospital's ER. They were in charge, and they had to very quickly learn how to handle administrative medicine. I mentioned my brigade surgeon time, 4,500 soldiers, but then there were, I'll call it 10 PAs, 5 other docs, a nurse, multiple physical therapists, a couple hundred combat medics that made up the medical system within that brigade. Hey, I'm 3 years out of fellowship, and I'm now running all that, running a small town's healthcare system. And and by the way, that I was doing all that right as COVID started, which that was a lot of fun, especially because the unit was down doing a major training exercise in California, 20 some hours of a bus ride away from where we lived. And nobody wanted us, because nobody knew what was going on with COVID. Nobody wanted us to drive home. So it was a fun couple of days there for a while. But you get exposed to a lot. For those who are, there's in addition to physical fitness, there's the minimum marksmanship, right? You have to be capable and competent with your assigned weapon. For a physician, usually it's going to be a pistol. And once a year, you go out to the shooting range and you got to hit at least, 20 some of the 30 targets they put in front of you. It's some of this just goes along with the profession. Yeah.
In the Marine Corps, I had to qualify, as you say, all the time with my 9mm pistol, which going into a combat zone, I was glad I was pretty good at it, But I also had the opportunity to qualify with the M16 or the rifle they use now, and I have bragging rights of having qualified on iron sights at 500 yards.
Hey.
So I was really I ran across my scores not too long ago. It was actually pretty good.
See, it was the funny you say that. It was the rifle range in basic was when I realized I needed these, because I was the pop-up targets, and I was hitting the 300-meter target pretty well because it was bright orange. The 250-meter target, they kept saying, "Hey, sir, why aren't you shooting at that target?" "What target?" And just needed glasses.
Yeah. I remember at the 500 yards, I was having to take the gun and count I kept losing the one that I was supposed to be shooting at, and I'm not sure I was always shooting at my target. I think I was shooting at the guy next to me some of the times, but it really made me, first off, it made me appreciate what our soldiers and sailors and Marines can do as far as defensive things, but and how they train and how they what they're prepared to do and help. We're getting close to the end of our time here, and I just want to thank you for what you do. I hope that our viewers will, if you've never thought about the military, okay, this is something that maybe, especially if you're in residency or if you're a medical student right now listening to this podcast, I hope you'll think about this. Obviously, there are financial incentives to do this. It's a great career. I think that it's something that Major Maskell will agree that you're very proud of what you've done. Okay, and it's something that will stand with you the rest of your life, and you'll have opportunities to do things that you would never ever have any other place. Now, obviously, some of those might be in harm's way, but the chances of that are relatively small, to be perfectly honest. It's relatively small, but there are other things that you might have an opportunity to do that would be transformative in your life. And I hope that you'll think about it. If any of this conversation is attractive to you, or you'd like to have more information, let's give that website again. It's
it's goarmy.com, and then I believe it's /AMED, AMEDD, Army Medical Department. Find an AMED recruiter and have a chat with them. At a minimum, they'll buy you lunch.
And and one thing for our viewers, it's important that you go to the medical recruiter.
Yes.
If you walk into the your standard recruiter, they will look at you like you got three heads, because they have no clue how to get you into a medical unit.
And some of them, I've run across some shady situations. I know of an ER nurse who got told that, oh, the only way to be an officer is to have been enlisted first, and got dragged through combat medic basic training for a few months. So go to a medical recruiter, please. They know what they're talking about.
Yeah, and they will love you. They will
Yes.
absolutely love you, because we do need more physicians and nurses and PAs and EMTs that would be medics. If whatever your medical training is, the military can use your skills, and you will enjoy it, I guarantee you. So Major Maskell, thank you for joining us. Thank you
for having me.
EP Talk, and we'll come back if we missed any saved rounds, as they say, and we'll come back and talk about it later.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. Take care, guys.